Hello. We have a mic. Can you guys hear me all right? Yep. Yes? All right. Hello, RESO. It is good to be here. I want to start off. How about now? Is that working? All right, guys. Appreciate it. Sorry, I want to thank Sam. Is my wife and I's first time here at the Ritz-Carlton. It's really nice. I want to thank Sam for making sure that any future vacation or holiday I ever book again will absolutely pale in comparison. This has been really nice. The wife has told me the bar is now set way up here, so thank you for that. We're here to talk about RESO standards and a brand new RESO standard, and something we are really excited about. This is going to help us and help me do something that I've been trying to get done in this industry for a really long time, a dream I've had forever, right? And that is to get real-time data. We're talking about a new implementation, a new standard, something that's absolutely going to help us out. And this is going to replace the final cog in the piece that has prevented us from getting there for all this time. I'm Rick Herrera. I'm Vice President of Research and Development at Constellation One. I'm also Chair of the Pain Points Data Consumer Group. We'll be hosting a session on Thursday. I hope that you guys can join us. A lot of what I talk about today comes directly from feedback we have heard through the Pain Point session, from consumers, from data providers, from vendors. And so this is kind of how we move forward. Now, I know many of you do not know exactly what a webhook is in technology, and so this is kind of a bit of a mix. I think this really has an impact on product. I think this has an impact on speed, on business, on operations, on costs. There's a technical aspect to this, and Kevin's going to come up and talk about the technical side at some point. But hopefully I keep everybody engaged, and let me walk through this with you. So to kick us off, I will start by talking about how we get data today. And so how we do it today, if you're talking, oh, I went too far. Oh, well. Woo. There we go. If you get data today from anybody, whether it's RETS, whether it is Data Dictionary, whether it's Web API, any type of RESO data you're getting today, it is not real-time data. It just isn't. The fact of the matter is that the way we collect data today is through something called polling. And the problem with polling is polling was introduced about 15 years ago. We introduced RETS. And polling was about the same time that the BlackBerry was introduced. Somebody asked me if that was me, and I said, absolutely not. I would never be caught dead wearing, a phone clipped to my belt. There's just no way. That looks ridiculous, but it is what it is. So the way polling works is like this. On some time interval, as a data consumer, I am going to ask a server, has anything changed? Is there anything new? New listing? No. New listing? No. New listing? No. And I do this 24/7, 365, Christmas, New Year, around the clock, continually. And the challenge here is, when you use polling, you're doing this, and we started off we introduced this 15 years ago. When we introduced polling, it replaced something called FTP. And so when polling came out 15 years ago, it was like, I can poll every 15 minutes, 4 times an hour. This is so fast now. It was so fast. I worked at Realtor.com back then, and we did a press release on it. That's true, and it wasn't this decade or the last decade. It was the decade before that. That's how long we've been doing this. But the demand for data has continually increased over and over and over. It's not good enough anymore. It doesn't work. Clients and consumers went from every 15 minutes to every 10 minutes to every 5 minutes. And we started polling every 3 minutes, every 2 minutes, every 1 minute. And so what happens when you do that? I actually spoke to a prospect recently about polling, and they said, we poll every 15 seconds. So I did some quick math. I was like, whoa. So some quick math. If you're polling every 15 seconds and you have 500 MLSs, 2.9 million polls a day. One client, one person. We're pretty aggressive, and we might be a million maybe. But you've got 3 million from one client, 1 million from us. And you've got the Zillows, the realtors, all the big portals. You've got the franchises. You've got the brokers. You've got all the agent websites. You've got the tech companies. And all these people are hitting the data vendors, and they're slamming them. And then what happens? Well, you start to get errors. You get 429 errors. You get 500 errors. The vendors themselves are saying, you guys have got to slow down. This is ridiculous. They have to protect themselves. So we end up talking about things like data quotas, rate limiting, and all these things come out of directly into pain points. Why? Because we're still using the BlackBerry of technology for acquiring data even today. So what's the solution? How do we move forward? How about something like this? Much easier. So pretty straightforward. The way it works is, as a consumer, I build a simple API to the engineers out here. A listener API can be done in minutes, hours. It's not days. It's pretty easy to do, especially if you're in the cloud. It is amazingly simple to do. So we build a listener. We tell a vendor, hey, we actually have a listener. If anything happens, if an event occurs, you get a new listing, a new feature, a new price change, a new photo, just ping me. Let me know. I'll either respond right away and get the listing, or maybe I'll batch it up and do it on some interval if real time's not important to me. But it is literally that simple. And what is this called? Webhooks. So webhooks are simply a way for an application to tell another application an event has occurred. Something has happened. I have a new listing, I have a new picture, whatever that is. It's also known as push notifications. Everyone's used to push notifications. We get push notifications all day. You have one of these, you get a text message, blink, something pops up. That's a webhook. You got a push notification. An event has occurred. If we still did polling with text messages, every 15 minutes you would call AT&T and say, do I have a new message? Do I have a new message? And then if you did, you'd say, yeah, hold on. I gotta wait 15 minutes to get my reply. It just doesn't really work. And so we've gone through, we've done the implementation, and RESO knew a long time ago, it's been mentioned, that we started talking about this a while ago. And so the RESO transport group started coming up with how do we use this new technology or this different technology and apply it to real estate? How does it work for updates? How do we keep things in sync? How do we actually deal with what the payload should look like? What fields should be there? How do we do all this? It all got hashed out. It all got discussed. It got worked on. Everybody figured out. We agreed upon it. And RCP 27 and 28 were approved. We at Constellation One, we've gone through and we've actually implemented this now. And we've made this available to our customers. And so Kevin's going to come up. Kevin's going to talk a little bit about the technology side. I know there's technologists here. They have questions. He's going to go over the tech, and then I'll come up and explain to you what it is we want to do with this and how we can move this forward. Kevin.
Hi. So for us at Constellation One, we built our. Is this better? Okay, good. Okay, so at Constellation One, we built our platform. We built our stuff on AWS, and with that, we leverage its reliability, the scalability, and the security that it offers. So we have an existing system that we have a way that we offer a web API out of, and people are using that today. And what we wanted to do is, can we extend that to include webhooks? And so we don't need to change anything. We're just adding to what we built. And so what we've done is, today we have a data pipeline where we pull from hundreds of MLSs, whether it be from REDS or web API offerings. And yes, today the only way to pull that data is by polling. And hopefully by the end of this talk, we can change that and offer another alternative. We process that data in our data pipeline, and we standardize that to the RESO data dictionary. And within our data pipeline, we have a network of different data streams, which can go to reporting, to persistent storage. But that's kind of the place where we can tap into and we can publish out to other people. So we consolidate everything to a single stream where we have all of the updates for all resources, such as property updates, open house, member office, rooms data. And with AWS, there's a service that they offer called SNS, and that's a simple notification service. And with that, it's pretty straightforward. You just set up subscriptions for people that can tap into the stream and then start receiving these push notifications or these webhook events. So for the ones that we set up so far, most people have built an API, but with SNS, there are other protocols that are supported, such as email. So we did that for fun at the beginning. So we set up a webhook where we set to an email address, but then as you do that in a live system, you're gonna get a ton of emails. So that doesn't work. That doesn't really work in real life. So most of our clients that are using our webhooks today have set up an API, and we're just pushing notifications to them. And one of the cool things that I think we decided to do is to make it self-serve. So this screenshot here is our Swagger page for our web API. And what we've done is we just added additional endpoints for people to self-serve and set up a subscription or a webhook. Draw your attention to the endpoints in green, because those are the ones that people will start off with to set that up. And so the add endpoint is pretty straightforward. So all you need basically is you need to tell us where you want us to push notifications to. So there's an endpoint field, and that's where you would put your URL. Once you get a confirmation, and then you're off and going. Then we would start sending push notifications for updates to your properties, to your open house, to your meter updates that go to that API. Our other endpoints, so keeping with the theme of self-serve, so the other endpoints are more to kind of list out, manage those subscriptions that you set up with us. So you can remove, you can add. We even have a test endpoint. So initially, once you set up the subscription, you can send a test message just to check that everything's working correctly. And so what does the payload look like? So once you set up, you would receive this payload, and this complies with RCP 28. It consists mainly of the resource record key, the type of resource that has been updated. So in here is a property or a listing, the originating system name, so the MLS that it originated from, the modification timestamp, which I think everyone's familiar with, but also this other field, which is a bit of a mouthful, entity event sequence numeric. I think it started off at RCP 27 as event ID, but this is kind of what we feel is an improvement on modification timestamp, where it's an increasing number to tell you a different way to basically represent them, whether you are the current version of that listing or that resource. And then most importantly, we have the resource record URL. So this is kind of a decision that we made to not deliver the full payload to people and keep the messages light. So once you receive your notification, you'd use the record URL to hit our web API and retrieve the full data or the full listing. So we've added additional features to try and guarantee delivery. So we do retry to send if there's a failure, and we have a backup here between each retry. But with features with using SNS, there's ability to fail messages to drop into a dead letter queue, and then we can redrive anything that you've missed. So if you are subscribing to these webhook events, but then there's some failure, there's ability to kind of replay and recover from that failure. But in addition to that, something that we think is quite cool is that we added these inventory endpoints. So this is kind of like a daily backup. It's a lightweight zip file that you can pull down from us, and that helps you reconcile. So if you're not sure whether you have the latest version of all your listings, the inventory file will tell you that. So you can do a quick check, sync up to check that your copy of a listing and our copy of listing is the latest. And And that's pretty much it. I think there wasn't much to it. I think it was leveraging what was offered out of AWS. We're just adding on to what we built with our web API offering. And we deployed it to production. We asked some of our existing customers to start using it. We got some feedback, and we're trying to evolve it over time. So hopefully, we can keep improving it and keep having more adoption.
Thanks. Yeah. He did all the work, so. I will say, I promised Kevin if he could get Web API done really fast and in production before this conference, I would give him an all-expense paid trip to Florida. I just didn't tell him he'd have to present in front of 350 people until maybe the last minute, so that may have happened. But to build this out, to his point, so to build this out, the way we did it is we first reached out to Josh and to people within the industry, and we said, hey, this is something we're serious about this. We're going to do this now. We kind of planned it prior. And we went through and said, this is the objectives. And we talked about it. We started implementation. We were able to put this out in no time. AWS makes this so easy. As I said, there are services out of the box that are made specifically for this. In absolutely no time, you can have something up and running. And so we did that. We spoke to our customers. We talked to various customers. Are you guys able to test this? We did that. We got feedback. We tweaked things. We made some changes. We reached out to other experts. I know Dan, who's been on stage, Dan Troop, Remax, was really nice, helped us out, gave us advice. We talked to Ren Spree and their engineering team. We worked with Redfin and their engineering team. And we said, here's exactly what we're doing. Test it out, play with it, go hammer on it, whatever you want to do. And we took that feedback. And we're live in production. And we have some customers that are using it now. We have some that are doing it for some feeds, and we have others that have it on the roadmap. They'll get to it really soon. And so far, it's been a really positive experience. I will wrap up here in just a second. One of the other big parts to me that I think is super important, and I'll kind of put on my RESO hat for this. So. As a volunteer of RESO, and I've been doing the pain point sessions for quite a while now, one of the things I often see is tension between consumers and vendors. And I hear it a lot, and we've heard it a lot at the sessions. I've been guilty of this myself, in all fairness. When I talk to somebody and they said, oh, we hit the vendors so hard, we're so fast, and they hate us. And that kills me. It's like, is that the type of relationships that we want to have between two entities that want the same thing? We all want to make sure, agents, brokers, franchises, consumers get the information they need as quickly as they can. And this helps. This helps get us there. Instead of having to poll over and over again 1 million times a day, which honestly, 80% of those result in nothing. And so that's expensive. I'm an AWS provider. I'm serverless in the cloud. It is lightning fast. I love it. But every time I make a call, I have to pay for a Lambda function, a step function. I have to pay for rights to the rights, logs, storage, reporting. And this has costs on the other side too. If the vendors are sitting in AWS or any type of cloud services, they're paying every time I hit them, those same types of costs. And even if you're in a data center, it's still costing them money because they have to go through and have bigger servers. They have to have a bigger pipe. They have to have more memory. They have to have more, they write more logs. All this stuff costs them money. And if a vendor's having to pay more money, where's that cost going? And so when I went to the last conference at the end of Pain Points, it was Thursday, I sat down and had a lunch with Sam and with Josh after it was all over. And I said, come to the next conference, just book me. We are getting this done. And so we've gone through, we've done it, we've proven it, and I'm here to tell you it's not that hard. It really is not that hard. I hope I've done a good job of convincing you of the value proposition, how this really can help everybody on both sides. So when you have to make that decision, do I put a little bit of time into this? I hope that you'll think about it. My last bit here, RESO has provided a way to do it. The standards exist. We've done it. And so as I've reached out and got help from others, I offer that same help back to you guys. If anybody needs assistance, and I'm going to come back. I'm going to go talk to all the big vendors over the next couple of days. So Al, Mike, Joe, you guys know who you are. I'm going to come by and I'm going to say hi. You need a free drink, I'm happy to buy the drink. I know it's a RESO conference. I'm good. I know how the game's played. Happy to do it. But if you need help, if you want to understand what did we see, what did we get from feedback, what lessons did we learn, how did we do it? If you need someone to just beta test, we're going to try something out. Can you try Google be a client? Can you hit it? Can you see what happens? Can you read these feeds? We're happy to step in and do that. And we'll be a partner to the industry, and we're happy to do that. So I'm Rick Herrera. Thank you very much. This is Kevin. Thank you, guys. If you have questions, we're happy to answer them.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? This is kind of a very specific topic. So as we get less and less formal throughout the day, do we have specific questions about this that folks have? You can obviously bring those to our future meetings that we have with data consumers and pain points. But does anybody have some pressing question that maybe half the room would want to know the answer to on this topic? You're off the hook. Nope, there we go.
How do you handle deleted listings that don't have modification timestamps?
So,
Can you repeat the question?
how do you handle delete listings that don't have a change to the modification timestamp? So there's two sides to this equation. So we are at Constellation One, we acquire listings from MLSs and from vendors. And then we have franchises and brokerages and people, we do a national aggregate and we pass data to them. So on this end of the transaction, we are using webhooks and we are using real-time notifications. As soon as we get a listing in and it writes, we send out a notification and they know, come get it. On this side, so talking to the MLSs, talking to the vendors, we're still using polling. It's still out there. This is a new implementation. And so my ask is and my goal over the next 6 months so that I can come back here and report back at the next conference is, hey, these vendors have started to integrate. Then that will be a notification. Now to answer your question, that's generally done today through a sync. So on some interval, I will get a list of all the IDs that are active and I'll compare it to mine. Anything that isn't the case, I will then mark it as delete. That is an event. So as soon as I do that, that second, I send a notification out to our customers to say, you can pull this off now. So stale data will stay on their sites longer and will be out in the public. It will be off from the public much, much quicker. That's an advantage. I just went and then Bill.
How far off does this go? Socket.
He said, how far off is this from WebSocket? You have to reconnect all the time. So as far as TTL and all that, I'll let you answer that one. Time to live for the connections.
Oh, it's constant. So with SNS, there's no TTL, so it's on once you start subscribing, but there's a way to disable it. So you be on demand. So you say I don't want to stop sending me updates. We'll have an endpoint to say pause or to stop.
Bill?
How much of the standards are already set? I mean, is this actually truly a RESO standard, or are we going to need 5 different vendors with 5 different ways?
No, that is a great question. I was just having this conversation with Dan right before I walked up here. I've been part of RESO for a long time. Those of you that have been here for a long time who lived through the implementation of RETS and saw the various implementations, even with Web API, there was definitely growing pains through it. And so the thing that we can do is, as we go through and we do implementations, I started the process with Josh with transport, and I'm going to be giving my updates every month to transport. We have to grow this out. There is no doubt about it. There was a slide up here. I didn't talk much about it, about future things. There's additional things that can be done in security. It's a great example. We know some people that want some stuff very Kafka specific. Maybe, maybe not. There's a need to actually give the full payload. There is growth that's going to happen here. This is a full-fledged product. My team will be working on it over the next quarter for sure. I think the best thing we can do is bring everything to transport every month and get the approval process. And people have to be present and people have to participate. If you're not there, Bill, If you don't show up, Bill, then you don't get to come back here and complain either. Everyone. But there is a
Bill's
process
here.
to it.
I would like to add, because I know a lot of you don't deal with sort of the governance of the organization, but it's important just to know that we do look at obviously trying to test and document transparently for you things that have been tested. We require multiple implementations of a standard to ratify at the board level for an official RESO standard. So we need to not have just one organization have a marketplace implementation. We need multiple, and we need to be able to be as transparent with you as we can about what those systems look like and how they comply with the standard. So we'll do that. I believe there are other companies working on this right now, and we would love to help you test those systems and show those implementations to membership.
So I made a statement earlier, and I promised I was going to go talk to all the big data providers today over the course of the next couple of days and introduce this. And that process actually started yesterday. It's reception, right? We're drinks. One of the big vendors has already said, we're in. We support this. I'm not going to say who that is. I'll let that person speak if they want to speak. It's not for me to do. I don't know what they plan as far as press or anything else. But I know one of the big guys has already said, we're in. I got that confirmation yesterday. So I do have high hopes this will gain traction and this will gain some momentum pretty quickly. And you know, as my role in data, as data chair for data consumers, I need to be at the top of this and I need to push this, and I do plan on doing so.
And also, for those of you who are new, we say Josh from the stage a lot of times. Joshua Darnell is our CTO, who's kind of the head tech for all of these things. So that's someone you'll want to know, dev@reso.org, if you have questions about these kinds of things. Yeah. More questions?
When this got pushed to transport from R&D 10 years ago, I wonder, we were asking whether a queuing protocol would be put in place to deal with unavailability of servers, endpoints, etc. Are you using a queuing protocol with webhooks?
So right now it's client based. So right now the client has to control. They create the API, we ping them. It was on the list. If you on that slide, it was number 2, I think, on that list. That does need to come. I agree.
They built it. Give them a big hand.